Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for part 2 of my NBA trade deadline mini series thing. I don't really like calling. I guess I'll call it a mini series. I don't really like calling it that, but maybe we should call it. I don't know. Playlist? 6 episode play. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But this is part 2. See, look at me. 2 video, maybe 6 videos in a week instead of 1 every 3 weeks. Wouldn't that be something? For my, 27 subscribers. Shout out y'all, bro. Bro, shout out, man. Y'all real for this. I ain't gonna lie. Anyway, let's pick up where I left off. So, the first trade is the Detroit Pistons, the Chicago Bulls, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Starting with the Pistons, they acquired Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric, who, this is the second time he's been traded in one day, and a 2026 first-round protected pick swap. I don't fully understand what that means, so I don't know. I think it was a swap. Obviously, it was a swap with the Bulls. Yeah, it had to be a swap with the Bulls. But I don't know where the protections come in. I'll have to do some research on that. But anyway, Kevin Huerter was the big part in this deal as Dario Saric got waived. Which, I wonder if he minds. Probably because he doesn't have a job. But I wouldn't want to play in Chicago either. So, I wonder if he's mad. Probably not. But Kevin Huerter was acquired to help a struggling Pistons team that can't shoot the three very well. They're 22nd in three-point percentage across the league. And Kevin Huerter's a 37% three-point shooter across his career. This season, he's not shooting it that well. So the price tag was relatively low. So far, he's 0 for 4 in a Pistons jersey, but I have no doubt he'll turn it around. It's just, a rough stretch. So, and we got to remind, he's playing for the Bulls. So, Anyway. Yeah, so I have no doubt he's going to turn around. And like I said, the price tag was relatively low for someone who could shoot the ball well. And the Bulls acquired Mike Conley, who then they traded later again. And Jaden Ivey. The reason I say the price tag was relatively low is because the Pistons didn't hold Jaden Ivey at a very high tag. Because nobody really knows what his potential is. He broke his fibula last year, and he came back and he just didn't seem to be playing that well. He really wasn't playing well, and he didn't seem to be himself. And it's because, coming back from a major injury like that, it can be hard to get back into the flow of things. And the problem he ran into in Detroit was that he got kind of flushed out of the lineup in the rotation. Because so many people stepped up in his absence that he just lost his minutes, and there needed to be somewhere for a fresh start for him. J.B. Bickerstaff, who's the head coach for the Pistons, said this was purely a business decision. It's not anything personal. Everyone loves Jaden Ivey. It's just it gives Jaden a fresh start. And there is no better fresh start than the Chicago Bulls. They have nothing to prove. They play for nothing other than the play-in to lose. It's just going to be an amazing spot for Jaden Ivey. Hopefully he can truly, truly show up and show out. I'm excited to see what he can do. Minnesota got literally nothing. They traded Mike Conley for nothing. Except they expect to sign him back, even though he got waived after he got traded from the Bulls later. But that's weird that they traded him. He got waived later, which we'll get into why he got traded later. And then they're going to sign him back. Super interesting. I don't know. The next trade is the Celtics and, would you look at that? Chicago Bulls. Shocker. The Celtics received Vucevic and 1 second. The Celtics really, really needed help at their 5. They needed some experience there, and Vooch is going to be solid. He's a former All-Star. I didn't realize he was 6'8", I believe. Let me check my whiteboard real quick. 6'9". I, for some reason, thought he was 7 foot tall. I did not know that he was only 6'9". It kind of shocked me. But the idea of the trade's a bit strange, because he is 35, and he's on an expiring contract. So, I guess the idea was to get rid of Anthony Simon's contract, because I always have a hard time looking at trades and really understanding why teams do them when they're not in competition. Obviously, every NBA team's goal is to win a title. But we know that the Celtics aren't going to win a title this year. So, it's an interesting deal that they lose the bench minutes from Anthony Simons, so it only makes their second unit weaker. And don't get me wrong, Vooch is incredible. You know, he's going to have his up nights, going to have his down nights. I mean, he's 35. But he's on that expiring contract. I guess this is more of a move for the offseason so they could free up a bunch of money. And when Jason Tatum is fully back to play, they can either re sign Vooch, who will be 36, or then go out and get a really everyday center. Or it could be just to have somebody, you know, to teach the young guys like Nemanja Keita really what to do in the league when it comes to starting it, you know, as a center. So maybe I'd like to trade a little more than I think I do off my initial reactions here, because I always love teams that make deals to help younger players, you know, to develop them, and I think Vooch is going to do that, even if it is just half a season. The Chicago Bulls got Anthony Simons and 1 second. Again, I have no idea what the Bulls are doing. They took on a bigger contract. They lost their height. This is just a pure tank move. And before I finish this video, we're going to update this little whiteboard because they've already made 3 trades, and I'm 5 in. They've been included in 3 of these trades of the 5 that I've talked about. I think it's 5, might be 6. But yeah, they're just blowing everything up. They're going into absolute pure tank mode, hopefully, even though they're still probably going to make the play-in tournament. But I don't see what they're doing. They're only getting smaller. And they taking on a bigger contract. This move makes no sense. And Vooch's contract is expiring. So why make this deal? Why not just let him walk? All you got was 1 second. Oh, man. The Bulls just have no idea what they're doing. They just don't know at all. They genuinely just have no idea what they're doing. For Vooch, though, I guess the Bulls... Yeah, I don't know. I have on my notes that they did it as a respect move for him, but his contract's expiring, so I don't know what's going on. The Bulls don't know what's going on. We're on the same wavelength. Ugh. The next deal is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Los Angeles Clippers. One team that does know what they're doing is the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers acquired James Harden. I love this deal for Cleveland. They didn't give up much. They gave up, you know, Darius Garland, of course, who they love, but he's been hurt. You know, he hasn't played a ton and when they really need him to. You know, he missed 5 games in the playoffs last season. He's been missing time this year. He had that foot issue, which made him miss those 5 games, and it was a toe. It was a toe. And he just hasn't looked great. James Harden, on the other hand, has meshed so well with Donovan Mitchell through the first couple games that they look like just a pure dynamic duo. And it's so amazing that James Harden, in his introductory conference, said he understands it. This is Donovan Mitchell's team. He has always been the system everywhere he's gone, but he is perfectly okay, you know, with just sitting and being behind Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, you know, they played 2 different positions, but he's okay with this being Donovan Mitchell's team. And he has no problem going to get his. He had 22 in his first game in Cleveland. He's going to have no problem going and getting his buckets. This is an amazing trade for Cleveland. As you know, earlier they acquired Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. They went and got James Harden. This is unbelievable. And they only gave up Darius Garland in a second, which is, you know, the Clippers side of the trade. Darius Garland has 2 years left on his contract. This does help them get younger. They don't own their first round pick. So I slightly question why they made this deal. Because not only, you know, James Harden didn't ask for this, which is, you know, whoa, something new. But Kawhi was slightly shocked. And you're kind of just, you know, getting rid of Kawhi's last good years. Because you didn't, you know, he's still on the team, but you traded Zoo, you traded Harden. We'll get to Zoo in the later. But, you know, you're kind of just wasting Kawhi's last few years going into rebuild mode. And, you know, I don't love that idea, but obviously, you know, stars have to fade for new ones to glow. So, you know, hopefully LA can figure out what they're doing. And, you know, we embrace Kawhi while we have him. You know, we don't let him dwindle away. We understand and respect. This might be the end of it, but, you know, we love what's going on. And just respect. Man, I don't want Kawhi to retire, man. Just that 2019 season, Kawhi is just such an incredible. He's just a robot. I don't want Kawhi to retire. Oh man. So those are the 3 trades I was talking about in this video. But real quick, let's update our little Chicago Bulls whiteboard. All right. So, and I'm just gonna cross out the players that they've gotten rid of for now. I'm gonna add, I'm gonna make the updated roster later. But let's just, for now, only get rid of the players that they got rid of. So, in this episode, we talked about how they traded away Kevin Huerter. 6'6". Gone. And I already crossed off Emmanuel Miller. You can't really read it, but he was in the last episode. Darius Don Hicks, they acquired him. They got rid of Vooch. Where's Vooch? He is right here. All right. Let me make sure that is everybody. Vooch. Yep. Kevin Huerter. Yep. Darius not on here because he got traded earlier. Okay, yeah. So, as of right now, that is everybody. So, through 2 episodes, the Chicago Bulls have traded 3 of their players. And their tallest player and one of their, 4th? I don't know. But their tallest player. It only gets worse from here because Andrew Simons is not that tall. And then they trade for Rob Dillingham later, who, by the way, is not 6'2", I think. I'll get to that. Never mind. It's not important. I'll get to it later. But yeah, it only gets worse. So, I'm excited to keep this updated as we go along on this wonderful journey. Anyway, as always, thank y'all for watching. And as always, I'm just a guy with a microphone and an opinion. Peace out.